Thank you, Lydia, for inviting me to this session. Hi, everyone. I'm Reena. I'm a talent acquisition specialist. Currently, I work at a company called Vaisala, and I'm also a career advisor with Lydia at GitHub in Finland. Uh, I have around 8 years experience in talent acquisition, few years from my home country, and last 4 years I've been working here in Finland. My current role is my third job here. And on a daily basis, I work a lot, mostly in hiring and kind of help in finding the right match for different positions, different roles, help hiring manager with interviews, also do interview myself, so a lot of evaluation as well on the go, and so end-to-end recruitment for any position. So professionally, that's been my background. I moved to Finland around 8 years ago. I live here with my family in Espoo, and I'm also an artist by the night. I specialize in mandala art. What else? I love cooking as well during my free time, and I'm a social person, I guess. So that's about me. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you for joining, and I'm happy to answer any questions that's on your mind regarding recruitment, CV, how CVs are viewed, or any questions that you have on your mind about practices or recruitment, how it is done in Finland, especially. Yes.
Maybe I will start with the first question that's been in my mind a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
When people are getting hired into Finnish companies, uh, they are asked to provide referrals, so names of people they worked with previously. You,
Yes.
as a recruiter, what are you asking these people?
Interesting question. Um, uh, yes. So often there are like at least one or two referrals that is collected, and it's always advised that you share a referral of your manager or colleague that you have worked with in the past, and of course choose to share someone who knows you well or worked with you very well, who can really give good feedback, because it can be a really deal breaker if the references speaks negative about you, or something doesn't go really well during the reference stage as well. So it's very important that whom you're picking. Now, what questions are asked usually depends on the kind of role that you're being interviewed or being hired for. Of course, there would be certain competencies which are required for this person to be successful in that role, right? So often the questions revolve around those competencies, but also more on the behavioral competencies as well. There's a lot of focus on those competencies like team dynamics, your collaboration, maybe what are the strengths that this person kind of really showcase during his or her work eh, while working under that manager or colleague. So or are there any red flags that it's good for the future companies to know? So these kind of questions mostly, and also maybe questions might vary from company to company. Most of the companies that I have experienced with has very free flowing questions, like they don't have any predefined questions. um, and mostly they always revolve around these kind of competencies. um, but then some companies might have some strict 10-point questions or things like that. But of course it would always involve the competencies that is required for that role, which are very important for that role and important for that person to be really successful in that role.
Thank you for your answer. And we have a question already. Is
Mm-hmm.
it okay to reach out to recruiters first and ask them about positions, for example, on LinkedIn? Or is it considered to be rude in Finland? Or also the second question around it, are there any work ethics, some rules which should be considered when talking to a recruiter or HR?
Well, if I understand this question correctly, maybe you mean that once the job is published, there is a contact person or a recruiter who is, responsible for that position, and is it okay to reach out to that recruiter? Yes, uh, it is fine to reach out to the recruiter, but also keep in mind that recruiters are often so busy, or they often get like hundreds of questions or hundreds of connections on LinkedIn that they might actually miss answering or responding to you. And it's not intentional, but then just that, they keep getting so many messages over and over that they tend to miss responding to everybody. On the other side, I would think that often, at least in Finland, you would have noticed that there is 90% of the time, there is always a contact number of the hiring manager, or at least an email and phone number with specific time and slots and date when you can reach them. So I would highly encourage to use that option, and please reach the hiring manager with your questions, because then it's more likely to get your questions answered straight from the hiring manager, and that is more efficient. Of course, when you're deciding to call the hiring manager, prepare yourself a bit better, because that's also a good way to stand out actually among the applicants. Hiring manager always remembers who calls them, and out of 100 applications, for example, maybe only 10 applicants reaches them. So, and it's very, very likely that the hiring manager remembers those 10 people with whom they had a quick chat or conversation. So definitely reach them if there is a contact number, contact time, but prepare yourself with good questions, right questions, and avoid repeating same questions that is already available in the job description, but try to think what can help you understand more about this role. So think in those directions and prepare your questions a bit in advance and have that chat. By the way, I think you also have a session next week, right, about the similar topic. So I would encourage Elisaveta to join that session as well if she has registered, because one of our other TA professional is specifically talking about this.
Right. Is it compulsory to provide the reference or only when it is asked?
When asked, I would say generally it doesn't matter if you provide it in your CV, and at least I wouldn't recommend also that you just provide any reference on your CV. Also, it concerns GDPR and privacy, because then you're sharing their phone number and then maybe their email ID or any form of contact details. So not necessary or not compulsory at all to include in your CV, but when it is asked, definitely then you need to provide. And always think about somebody that you have worked with, as I said in the beginning, and with whom you have worked with, but also has good, you know, connection, somebody who can really talk positive about you. So yes, when asked, then it is definitely must to provide.
How does ATS work? Does a real human read our applications?
Yes, until now, definitely there is human behind reading every CV. We are still not there where, only ATS would do all the work for a recruiter. So um, at least not in Finland. Maybe in US, I hear a lot of stories that there is ATS that does a lot of tasks, but not in Finland yet. At least in Finland, I think everybody can be rest assured that there is still human eye who does the job of screening, going through every application, um, and then kind of basically going through all the stages of screening and sending the rejection and things like that. So yes, there is always a human like me who does the screening part.
What are the current hiring trends in Finland at the moment, right now?
Uh, I don't understand the question very clearly, in the sense that any specific, does it mean maybe Sonia is the one who asked this question. So do you mean that what are the current hot positions or roles that is being hired, or how it is hired? So maybe if you can elaborate a bit more.
Yes, hi.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe in terms of habits that the recruiters have, like the thing that you just said about us calling them, so then they will
Mhm.
remember us. Is there any other thing similar to that? Or we just have to be creative on how we reach or how we apply?
um, yes, calling is definitely one thing, connecting and uh, doing a bit of research about the company that you're applying beforehand and kind of showing or bringing your real motivation on your cover letter uh, would be very, very helpful. And then that kind of shows in your motivation how you draft your cover letter. And the more effort someone brings in, and kind of the cover letter shows that real effort and motivation, to be honest. So and recruiters can kind of really identify that. And it's even more crucial in roles which is like more say non-technical. For some technical profiles or roles, I would say, if the technical competencies and skills are very well matching, I think you're more likely to kind of get chosen, even if there is no cover letter, for example. And I have seen such examples quite a lot. But then when it is a non-technical role or some kind of support role or even entry level positions like trainee positions, it's very, very important that your cover letter stands out and your motivation kind of reflects very strongly in your cover letter. So I think that is something also very important. And if you're like kind of proactively networking and connecting with people from the target companies that you have on your mind, and kind of already trying to build some kind of connection with them in advance, then you're in a really good position to kind of go back and chat with them when the position opens up, and then kind of also ask for reference if you already know somebody from that particular company. So I think all these efforts kind of goes hand in hand. And networking definitely helps a lot, actually, uh, if done in the right way and kind of done from early stages, and not like reaching out to somebody for reference when you see that there is a position open, and even though you don't know that person, but then you would ask for some help. I think that wouldn't work. So kind of building that relation from early stages, even before something opens up there, and kind of uh, so having a target company, having a list of target company would be great to begin with. So based off that, then you start networking, building your network, and then kind of connecting with recruiters from those companies, possible hiring managers, and then so on and so forth. So this is all kind of dots which is connected to each other, I would say.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We have many questions CV related. I will read
Mhm.
them all
Yep.
shortly, and you will answer however you remember. Um, so what is a good CV template for Finland? Is Canva okay? Should it be 1 or 2 pages? And should project certifications awards be included? And what are some tips of what to focus on in a CV or a cover letter?
Hmm. Yeah, good template, anything that is clear, concise, well written, well formatted. I think that's a good template. Of course, good to keep it short, especially if somebody is on their early career. I think one page is ideal. Somebody who has like, longer experience, then I think could go. Or then it can go up to 2 pages, but then ideally 1 page is recommended. Um, and Canva or Word or Novo Resume, it doesn't matter. I think it's just that you use, I mean, it's important that you have a really good, visually um, nice looking format, which is clear and kind of in a way that recruiter can spot all the important informations uh, easily, and then it's not confusing. So keeping it relevant also is very important, meaning like, just providing the relevant information and excluding all the non-relevant information. Of course, you can use Canva. Canva is a great tool. Um, you can simply use Word templates, but then whatever you use, always remember to change it to PDF, because PDF is a format that is like, how do we say, uh, uh, it's the most friendly template, and then it kind of easily gets parsed, or kind of I'm missing that word. Like, there's no error when you actually change your CV into PDF and then upload it on any tool or any portal or anywhere. So always remember to change it, or change it to PDF before sending your CV anywhere. Mm, uh, what was the next question? 1 page or 2 page? I think I answered. So um, yes, I think especially those who are in their early careers, including their relevant project certifications, which are relevant for the roles that you kind of apply, is very, very important. And kind of then also highlighting a bit more about those projects and certifications would also be good for early, people who are starting early in their careers. Mm, but with people who have more experience, I think then it's also good to kind of target even your entire experience based on the role that you are targeting. So idea is to target your for the role that you are applying, and then customize the CV based on the role that you're targeting. Um, any tips on what to focus when writing a cover letter? Yeah, cover letter is definitely a good place to show your motivation, which means why are you applying for this role? What is your motivation behind this role or the company or their product? There could be any one particular aspect about that position or company or something. So maybe if you focus on two whys, like why this company or this role, and the other why is why should they choose you? So what are the maybe 2 or 3 top qualities that you bring that would make you a good fit for this role? And uh, I think uh, sharing those whys along with some evidence, in the sense that some examples that kind of provides an evidence that, okay, if you are a proactive person, how? What proves that you're a proactive person? So adding some examples, I think if you're covering in these two whys, I think it makes a really good cover letter, and your motivation shows up very well.
I've recently heard from another recruiter that it is not advised to provide references in your CV until they are requested, because as an applicant, you might want to prepare your ex-team leaders regarding this particular job you're applying for. Would you still recommend to add the references into the CV?
Yes, so maybe I will repeat, since we, I think, already touched upon this topic. So there's no hard and fast recommendation that you have to add, but I would think that it's okay to exclude. So you don't have to really include your references unless asked. So, and often in Finland, references are asked only at the final stage, meaning you have cleared all your interview processes, and just before extending or discussing the offer, they usually like to do the reference checks. So that's when it's important that you share the references, and definitely not important to include them in the CV. And I'll add also this point, that because that can also be concerning about the privacy or the GDPR issue, because that would then contain some contact information about your referees as well. So it's I would say it's good to avoid including references in your CV. It's not necessary.
How do I know who a hiring manager is for the role?
Yeah, good question. Often in the job description, there is a contact number uh, mentioned in at least 90% of the job advertisements in Finland. And then there is a name, there is an either an email ID or a phone number with their title. So it means that that person is the hiring manager for that role. Mm, so that's one easy way to find out. But then sometimes it could be simply that there is no hiring manager, but there is a recruiter who has posted. So I think then recruiter is the one who actually handles the initial stages of the interview, or recruiter would be the point of contact for any questions to begin with. So then that person is the right point of contact. Well, if it's a bit difficult to find out who would be the hiring manager in advance, but then again, if you start networking and if you start connecting with some seniors for the role that you're targeting, but then in a particular department, then on the hierarchical level, maybe there is a head of quality assurance. So often what happens is somebody who's a head or a team lead, he or she would be the hiring manager for a role that is, say, test engineer in that company. So it's like connecting dots and kind of building your network by connecting to those people in advance and kind of reaching out if you see some possible positions open from that respective company, and then you notice that, okay, I'm already connected with this person, I know him pretty well, maybe I can ask him if he's the hiring manager, or if he knows anything about this role. So it's like a bit of a lot of background and research work which starts early on before the stages, but the simplest way is to see if there is a contact person in the job description.
What common mistakes do you see applicants make when applying for roles in Finland?
That's again a good question. I think, uh, okay, let me phrase it a bit. I think one common mistake that I often see is like applicants are not targeted, meaning um, uh, it's applicants are not able to analyze themselves if the role is first of all matching to them or not. So if the role doesn't match, no matter how much or how long experience you have or how good CV you have, it's most likely that you will get rejected. So first of all, understanding the job description and kind of reflecting your own experience and trying to understand that how much is it matching to you, and is it a good fit based off your experience, but also in terms of what you want. So if you're able to analyze this well, and if you think you're a good fit, I think then you're already kind of avoiding one big mistake, because I often see that uh, some people kind of apply to almost every role. And I see that now, especially with my current company, I think I have now I have memorized around 15, 20 names that I see for every application. So, but this is just an example. This number is actually even more. So this is a very, very common trend or mistake that everybody does, or applicants does, that they think that I would apply to every role, and that's the biggest mistake. Please target your roles that you want to apply, because that already helps you get way ahead if you are already matching for the position. So that's one mistake that I see. Second is too lengthy CVs with a lot of less relevant information. So I think tailoring your CV is very important to make it more targeted. So eliminating all the less relevant CV and highlighting or kind of adding the important things or the relevant things that is important for that particular role. So I think these two mistakes I often see in the applicants to begin with?
I have a long career in Finland, and even if I come up with 5 to 8 bullet points for each relevant position, the 2 3-line sentences that contain my impact make the whole CV 2.5 pages long. Would you recommend to still reduce it to 2 pages?
Uh, well, I would ask that, is all your experience relevant to the position that you're applying? If yes, then maybe the experiences, I mean, your most recent experience, like last few most recent experience, can be a bit longer, like 2 3 sentences, and the ones which are like way behind or older ones, I think you can kind of summarize and bring them together under one heading, or you can say handled multiple roles between this and this period in so and so company, and the main tasks were, because more or less the tasks would be still, at least few tasks could be same. So I think that can be a good idea to kind of reduce the length of your CV page.
Reena, would you recommend adding a profile photo? And do you personally think a colored Canva template is better than a black and white CV? So first one is should there be a photo
Mm-hmm.
in the CV?
Well, it's a personal choice. It doesn't matter whether you, I mean, as a recruiter, for me, it doesn't make much difference whether there is a photo or not. Of course, it's good to see the face behind the application. It already kinds of it. I think it makes some sort of connection. Um, but it's definitely a personal choice. If you're comfortable, feel free to add a photo. But then if you're adding, make sure that you add a good photo which is professional enough, professional looking, clear, um, not blur, not very old. So I think those are the things that is more important if you decide to add a photo. Um, about Canva template, black and white or color. Um, well, some mm, how do I say, some neutral colors looks good, because that also helps to differentiate between the layout. I think if there are some colors, um, but it doesn't matter. I think it's okay as long as the CV is um, well formatted, it's clear and nice looking. I think color doesn't matter. Personally, to me, it wouldn't matter.
And does it matter if I apply in the very beginning of the recruitment process or during the last day? For example, someone spotted a position only 1 2 days before the deadline. Do they have a chance?
Hmm. That's a very good question. Somehow I am an based on my own personal experience with the application process, I'm a big advocate of um, encouraging to apply early stages, because it can make difference. Um, of course, you can also spot this in the job description. Some companies clearly say that uh, we will start processing the application only after the uh, end date. So then you can be rest assured that they're not going to kind of start the process before the application period ends. And then I think the chances are equally same. But on the contrary, it's very few companies that actually mentions this and follows this based on my experience. And most of the companies, to avoid the last minute heavy screening, they start screening the applications um, right from the beginning. And also that means that the moment they start screening, as soon as they have like around 15 20 good applications or relevant applications, they might start interviewing in the background. So I think there's no harm done if you apply, you know, in the early stages. So I would encourage, because I think that that can really give an edge or advantage to your application. So it's good to kind of apply early on, but then it's okay to even still send if you spot something towards the end period. um, yeah, we cannot say how company works, but then some company clearly says that they will not take any action unless the application period ends, then we know. But otherwise I would encourage to apply in the beginning, early stages actually.
If someone is from an IT background and they have a GitHub, do you actually check the GitHub portfolio if the link is mentioned in a CV?
Yes, definitely. I think everybody, including the recruiter and the hiring manager, everybody checks those links and work and repositories. So it's very important and highly recommend to include those links in your CV.
What is more important in a cover letter? If someone had a longer experience in a field, what should be highlighted more? Motivation or experience? Considering the cover letter is written on one page. So we have to fit everything on one page. Need suggestions.
Hmm. I think cover letter is again mainly for motivation. Like, what is your motivation for applying for that role or for that position? Why are you even seeking that position? So, and when it comes to experience, you are already showing that in your in your CV. So you have listed all your experience in CV, and then there is also your LinkedIn profile, which might also have more details about your experience. So in cover letter, motivation, I think, is the most important thing to reflect. And when you cover mostly only motivation, I'm sure it's easy to fit in one page.
Mm-hmm. We have a bit of a repeating question of 3 pages over in comparison to 2 pages of a CV. I think you have answered already.
Yeah.
You said that we need to be familiar with people in a company. When the final goal is getting a job, why is it not recommended to start straight away talking about it with those people, of course, after saying hi to them? When the purpose of this connection is the job, how can we establish a genuine connection that would result in a job later? Please explain how to create such kinds of connections. It sounds really difficult to form such connections. I love the question.
Would you like to answer then? You might have good answer, but maybe I'll start, then you can pitch in, Lydia, for sure. Yes, it's a tricky situation. I understand. I feel you, Srividya. Good question also. Um, how would I start, by the way? um, of course, the final goal is getting a job, uh, but uh, I mean, when we say networking is not done with certain expectation. It's actually building genuine connection. But when once you have already established this genuine connection, then it's easy to ask for help or support when you need something, or it cannot come automatically. But what happens is when you straight away go and say, or connect with people and say hi, and then start talking or discussing about the purpose, it feels like the other person is on the, you know is asking too much from the person whom you have just connected, and you don't know, I mean, you both don't know each other well, there is no connection established. So it can feel like a really not so positive experience, especially in Finland. Making connection itself is not so easy, it takes a while. So it can be, um, it can make negative impact as well, I would say. So um, that's why it's important that you start networking and building these genuine connections early on rather than asking when you need it, other because you don't know them well. So then the chances of getting help or support that you hope to get are almost nil, almost very slim. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, Reena. I just want to say that. Like, on what basis, like, we would build these connections? Because it's the whole purpose of like these connections is the job itself. Then how can we build like these connections? On what basis they are built?
Mm.
Mm, yeah, I think that's where uh, a bit of change in perspective is required because um, it's not just, I mean if you're thinking that you're connecting with somebody only for the job or only for reference, then that's not the right perspective, I would say, to begin with. So you need to change your perspective because um, there can be different things that you can gain when you're connecting with somebody. And of course then eventually it can lead to some references or job, but then that should not be your first goal. I think the to begin with, when you're trying to connect with somebody, the goal or the idea would be to know that person, know their background, how did they kind of landed that job or wherever they are, what did they do, or if it is an international person, definitely what differently did they do, how did they do. So you would try to being more curious and kind of interested in understanding their background can lead to uh, more and more possibilities. I mean, I think that would be a good start to connect. And then maybe so the change in perspective is very, very uh, important, I think. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so there are many things that you can learn about that person actually. And of course then not just online, but then trying to meet them in person, trying to know them. And then when you are initially in the listening phase, or you're asking questions but then more listening, I think the other person is also more curious to share their story, tell their experiences, and I'm sure you would learn a lot from their experiences. And maybe not job, but then maybe what courses did they do, and if something that could be helpful for you. So there might come some recommendations about some course or some trends or some communities, or some events that you might not know. So there are so many things that can lead to when you kind of be open and curious in learning more about that person. And then I'm sure once you're connected, it's very easy then to kind of just go and ask. If you spot some position that you want them to help you, they are also more than comfortable to actually recommend you, or then also make some introductions with somebody who can, like, refer you. So it's not just that person connecting, but then think about their network, that if they can also then introduce you to somebody. So um, when we say networking, if you think it's only for job, then it's just one way street. That wouldn't work. So you need to be open and curious about learning different aspects about that person without much expectation in the beginning, because it will lead to something once you know them well, once you have genuinely connected, but not on day one for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Yeah. Thank you, Reena. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Reena, if someone doesn't have a lot of experience or gains their experience from courses or projects,
Mhm.
how to portray that in a CV, in a cover letter?
Uh, then it's important that first of all you're kind of targeting the positions which are like entry level positions or trainee positions, because of course with that less experience, if somebody is targeting a senior position, then of course no matter how much ever you show about your projects, the chances of getting invited is very minimum. So important thing is that you actually target the right positions based on your experience. And when you're targeting the right level of positions, I'm sure if you're expanding more on your projects itself, or the courses itself, which is relevant for that position, you will still be, chosen if that matches to their requirement, and then if they think that this is valuable. So just target the right level of positions and expand more on the relevant projects and relevant courses, which is relevant for that position that you're applying to.
We have a final question. I know many of you wrote more, but we almost ran out of time. Maybe, Reena, we can have a similar session in August
Yes,
later.
of course.
Yeah. My favorite question, how much can we use AI for tailoring application papers? And is it recommended to do tailoring for every job application?
Yes, tailoring for every job is definitely recommended, because that's a great way to stand out, first of all. Mm, and that's a great way to kind of really show what is needed for that particular role, like being relevant. So that's a great way to stay relevant for the role that you're applying. And that way you're also presenting only the information that the recruiter or the hiring manager wants to see, or the experience that they want to see that is relevant for the role. So you're in a way helping everybody in the process when you're tailoring your application. How much to use AI for tailoring? Uh, well, to be honest, of course, we all love AI, but then when it comes to recruitment, uh, you can use, but then I would say that please uh, use it for grammars, use it for your spell checks. But then when you're writing your cover, especially your cover letter, please write it from your heart and mind. Write something, because then that's original. Nowadays, everybody is using AI to create their CV and cover letter. So by doing so, nobody is standing out, to be honest. So everybody's CV and cover letter looks almost same. So if even in this AI word, if you are still writing your cover letter and creating your CV genuinely by yourself, I think that itself is a great way to stand out. So I would say please use AI for spell checks, grammars, improvising or refining a bit with your sentences, but don't fully depend on AI.
Thank you, Reena, for your time today. It was intense. How do you
Well, I didn't
feel?
realize how 45 minutes went actually. Time flies.
Yeah. Thank you a lot for answering all the questions.
Thank you. I hope we had more time and so many more good questions. But yes, let's do session again in future.